November. On the first item on the agenda is apologies for absence, and we have Councillor Mike White and Councillor Will Thomas. Are there any other apologies?
No further apologies, Chair.
Pardon?
No further apologies.
Right. Okay. Right. Next item on the agenda is the disclosure of personal and prejudicial interests. Members first. No? Any officers got any interests they need to discuss? No. Okay. Right. The third item is the normal one for scrutiny panels, which is a prohibition of whip votes and declarations of party whips. Then we move on to item 4, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. I'm sure you've all read them diligently. Okay. Anyone got any other comments about the minutes? No? Right, okay. Item 5 is public questions. We haven't had any public questions at the current time. So we'll now move on to item 6, which is the review of revenue reserves. And I've had apologies from the leader. So, Mr. Ben Smith, Director of Finance, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief, given that this has gone through Council already, and you will have noted in Council, and I'll repeat again today, I have adopted a deliberately passive stance in my advice to Council on what to do with reserves. You'll see that there's a list of reserves. There are no adds or takes proposed when it went to Council. That is because there remains uncertainty. We've just recently had the Welsh Government's latest detailed budget yesterday, and I'll update Council on Thursday. But we are also waiting for the UK government's budget later in the month. So I have deliberately adopted a passive stance. In terms of the levels of reserves themselves, they are what they are as a snapshot in time at the end of March 2025. They are still subject to audit, and you will be aware that there are flows in and out in the year. For example, Council, when it approved the budget, agreed to take 2 lots of £3 million out of the insurance reserve, 2 lots of £2.5 million out of the capital equalisation reserve. The eagle-eyed amongst you will have seen the first quarter budget monitoring report, where I've declared at least a £5 million underspend on capital financing, so that will flow back into the capital equalisation reserve. So there's an element of stuff flowing in and out, but it is a snapshot at this point in time. And in one sense, they will look like very large reserves, and context is key here. Given the size of the authority at £650 odd million budget, 14 million in general reserves is tiddly. It is the lowest, and I've repeated this about 5 years on the trot, the lowest I'm prepared to accept, even though I've already added 2 slugs of money in at previous outturns, taking it from 10 to 14 million pounds. But they're about 2% of overall spend, and they're designed to be the last resort shock absorber when anything unexplained, unexpected, uninsurable, unthinkable occurs. It would last just over a week. We've talked before about the level of the HRA reserves and the reason why they're stable but plan to increase because of pending legal action or now appeals to legal action on an all Wales basis. So they are what they are. And you have heard me talk previously about schools reserves. The reason I emphasise the level of specific reserves, which are large compared to other authorities, is you may have seen the WLGA's pronouncement, which is that some authorities are going to be better placed than others to withstand what may be coming in the Welsh Government's budget. We are one of those that, in my view, sits in that space given the level of cash-backed reserves, because the Welsh Government has floated repeatedly, and although I think it's at the hypothetical level only, that if a budget does not pass in the Senedd, we would not get 25% of our revenue support grant. And those of you that are agile on the maths will know that 25% of our £468 million revenue support grant would be £117 million short on the 1st of April. It is nice to have a cushion short term that I've got that amount in cash, albeit when we talked about it previously at this panel, the consequences would still be a bit Keystone Cops for me in terms of running around and using cash balances in the short term till we waited for a budget to pass. I know concern was expressed in the chamber in terms of, given the level of reserves and the ability to drill down into them, take a step back. Other than the HRA, which is ring fenced, and the position on general reserves, which are at the minimum I consider appropriate, of that big slug of earmarked reserves, they fall into four big uns of around the £20 million mark. There's give or take £1 million or so. Schools at £18+ million are the largest in Wales. We have near to 20 million in our combined insurance reserves. I have near to £20 million in contingency with the amount rolled forward at outturn at £18 million, subject to any draw for the growth fund, plus the £3 million budgeted base contribution. And there was over £20 million in the capital equalisation reserve. So I'm being a bit colloquial and doing a bit of rounding errors, but roughly four reserves drive the lot. And that's important in terms of the detail. You're entitled to have whatever detail you wish to have, but 4 of them drive the bulk of it. And there are reserves on individual basis, line by line, in the statement of accounts that any member of the public, any member can choose to inspect. And I've just referenced those 4 huge ones at around the £20 million mark. But the lowest reserve, there is a reserve with £768 still princely in it, and that may one day be spent. And a reminder, reserves can be spent only once. So I thought it was important to emphasise the context and give you a bit of flavour, given there are some risks still swirling around in the wider UK and Welsh economy, and describe why I'd gone for my very passive stance at council of they are what they are, we'll worry about it in due course, as it were. But I hope that additional flavour gives you some better feel of what's in and not in the reserves, but I'm sure there will be questions, and I can see at least one member has indicated. I think that concludes my technical advice, Chair.
Thank you, Ben. First question, Councillor Peter Black.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I know Ben's normally into doomsaying, but in terms of the Senate not passing a budget, presumably we do get a substantial grant towards the housing revenue account as well. And I would assume that 25% of that would also be lost if a budget wasn't passed, which would mean that the reserves which we're putting aside in terms of an appeal could well be eaten up as part of that. So I just thought I'd just mention that, and I'm sure Ben might have a solution to that. The question I wanted to ask was in terms of the Economic Growth Fund, which is flagged on page 8 as coming out of the contingency. Do we have a timescale as to when that report will be going to Cabinet, please?
So I'll deal with the first one first, which is the point of order effectively you made on the HRA. You're quite right. Potentially, if money doesn't come, the 25% rule also applies to the HRA. It would be 25% short for 4 months in terms of the major repairs allowance and other subsidy elements that we get flowing through to the HRA. Given the size of HRA reserves at the 16 million, which I've increased at budget on my advice, which Council approved, to 23 million, that provides more than enough cash flow for 4 months. And I still do think the legal potential appeal stuff is in the background, but I've got enough in the short term to effectively repeat the trick on the HRA as I have on the general fund. And the same with schools. With £18 million in cashback schools reserves, that is a darn sight better position to be in than every authority around us that already started the year with minus schools reserves. So I've got sort of 3 layers of protection on the 3 main obvious areas of risk. On your second point, Councillor Black, no, I don't yet still have a timeline, because although the leader rightly undertook at Cabinet and Council, and I think at Scrutiny, that it will flow through in due course, it is all entirely conditional on working out what the UK Shared Prosperity Fund is decided to be, because that will drive our ability to work out what exactly we might need to use the local growth fund for local priorities, but also to supplement the risks on the downside to UK Shared Prosperity Fund successor not being of the same order of magnitude or more restrictive than the current arrangements. So at the moment, the only advice I can give is it will come as soon as it's able to come, but given the timeline where we are, it would be looking tight, in my humble opinion, to be this side of Christmas. It is more likely to be after, just given the normal lead-in times. It is entirely contingent on that. To be fair to the leader, I can't really entirely speak for him, but he did make clear in Scrutiny panel previously any commitment was contingent upon having certainty or greater certainty of what was happening in the UK SPF. I expect we may know something post the UK budget at the end of the month, potentially in terms of what the sort of final position is in terms of flows to Welsh Government and thereafter. But that's, I can't be more specific than that at the moment, because I'm sat waiting in the holding pattern pretty much like everyone else. And hey, who knows what will happen in the meantime in terms of the risks that stalk every local authority in the land. But that's my current position, Councillor Black, and I'm sure if the leader were here, he would say the same. I don't think I'm speaking on his behalf. I'm just relaying practical realities of wait and see what happens at the end of the month, and if we get a bit firmer, it'll go as soon as it's able to do so.
Thank you. Can I just come back on the Welsh Government? It's 10 years since I've had to look at Welsh assemblies that then was standing orders. If the budget does not pass, and we lose 25% over 4 months, and then the new government comes in and then passes the budget, does that 25% get reinstated, or is that lost forever?
It's only temporary
Yeah.
loss, and that falls to 5% come end of July if a budget still isn't passed. But you're right to flag that there is still an obvious risk, which is convention is such that whatever the shape of the new Senedd chamber, the reality is a new government can pass any new budget it wants. So even if a budget were to pass in March, it is perfectly possible for there to be changes passed shortly on a new administration. And that may in itself have some consequences for what final position is. I mean, it won't reopen, clearly, as you'll be well aware, Councillor Back, it won't reopen the settlement in itself if a budget were passed beforehand. But yes, there is that at the margin, there's still ability for a new administration post-election to set out its own priorities to make changes, especially if the budget passes with some of that buffer still being held back, as is described by the current Cabinet Secretary for Finance, around giving either opportunity for parties to have discussions at the moment, and or for us, whatever the Senedd looks like in the new year, to have some flexibility in terms of what any new administration in the Senedd would choose to spend its priority money on. But it's only a temporary loss. There is precedent. It's exactly the same as Stormont, and you do get it back eventually. It's a cash flow issue more than anything. The 5% is at risk if a budget never passed, because the 25% drops clearly to 5%. So I know that's cash flow. Theoretically, the 5% is lost until at any point a budget is passed, and then you'll get 100% of your share of whatever the budget is when it is finally passed by whatever administration there is in Cardiff Bay.
So a new government could pass a supplementary local government settlement to reinstate any loss which we've had from the SRA as part of that, and they can continue to draw down that money from the Treasury once a budget has been passed. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone online? I think because it went through council, I think everybody is pretty confident. They know what the reserves are. Anyone else? No? Okay, well, thank you very much, Ben. You're more than welcome to stay for the interesting tourism bit now.
I might decline that very kind offer.
Are you sure now?
Chair, I think I could.
The Cornish roots came out then.
I'm sure I could go off and prepare for other budget stuff, and thinking about what I'll say to wider council on Thursday more seriously, because I'll be still digesting what's been announced by the Welsh Government. So if you don't mind, I will prioritise that for giving council some messages on Thursday. Thank you anyway.
Thank you very much. Okay, we now move on to item 7, which is the Tourist Destination Management Plan update. Can I welcome Councillor David Hawkins, Deputy Leader, and Councillor Elliot King? And I know that you actually, at the moment, share up the responsibilities for this department because Councillor Robert Francis Davis is off on sick at the moment. So, Councillor Hawkins, would you?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. First of all, could I just put on record my thanks to Councillor Robert Francis Davis, who have worked very tirelessly on this destination plan, and really is his good work that we're looking at today. And I know the report in front of us is very comprehensive, and I'd like to put on record my thanks to Steve Hopkins, Tracy and the team for the work that they put into this, because tourism is a huge part of our economy going forward. So more than happy just to take any questions after Steve has gone through the report.
Okay, Councillor Elliot King, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Much the same as David, really. I think just in the brief time covering to see the comprehensive amount of work. So, and just reflecting our thanks to Councillor Robert Francis Davis in the work. So, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, Steve, are you going to take us through it? Or is it Tracy? I don't blame you at all.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. My name's Steve Hopkins. I'm the Strategic Manager for Tourism, Marketing and Events, and thanks for the opportunity to provide an update on the Destination Management Plan. We had the plan approved by Cabinet in 2023, and this is almost like the midway point, really, in terms of reporting on progress. Just to recap, In terms of the destination management plan and the reasons for them, basically it's almost an instruction from Welsh Government and Visit Wales to have a plan in place in order to identify the area's priorities, as well as it being an opportunity then for us as a council and as a partnership with the private sector to sort of put forward ideas, projects, schemes for funding. It also enables us as a council to show clear links to other services within the council to make sure there's that joined up thinking and to ensure that tourism is a key part of cultural strategies and regeneration strategies moving forward. In terms of what those priorities are, they haven't really changed over the years, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with them. They're down the left-hand side in section 2 there. Raising the quality. I think we're all agreed that, you know, ongoing investment in the quality of the tourism product is a priority. Trying to break away from this seasonality stranglehold that a lot of destinations have, and by that I mean lengthening the season so that we're putting on events in the spring and in the autumn and the winter that we're marketing outside of the summer months to, you know, to make sure that Swansea gets a good spread of business right across the year. Encouraging sustainability, and that's both economic and environmental sustainability, making sure that, you know, businesses are profitable, but also they're meeting the needs of future visitors with regards to ensuring adaptations are made to their products, their properties, etc. Things like EV charging points, solar panels on roofs, green roofs, etc. as part of schemes. And ultimately, the most important one is working in partnership, both internally and externally, with the private sector and our public sector partners. So that's a key part of the strategy moving forward. In terms of a quick snapshot, we gather a lot of research throughout the years and the intervening periods of the plan. And, you know, there's some key facts and figures there. And like the previous report, where I think the general feedback was, you like this style of report, we've gone for the infographic approach as well, just to get that information across. And you can see there it's sort of a general update in terms of the population of Swansea. Probably one of the key ones which gives a real significant indication of how well tourism is doing in the city is the hotel room occupancy levels. And that is a sort of piece of research that is conducted with about 12 of our main city centre hotels. And they provide information on what their occupancy levels are. And we, as a city, are outperforming the Wales average, and we continue to beat our year-on-year sort of room occupancy targets. So that's really encouraging when you're talking to inward investors and that you can demonstrate there is a real strong market for tourism within the city. And that's a mix really of the sort of corporate business, sort of Monday to Thursday, as well as your leisure visitors on the weekend. Below that then is something called the bedstock figures, and that's something that we maintain annually. It just gives us an idea of who is operating out there. We all know about the rise in things like Airbnb and some of the problems that come with that, but having a good handle on bedstock has been really one of the key pieces of information that we've had to provide to determine the STEAM figures, which are the economic activity model figures that we collect on an annual basis and which demonstrate how many people visit the area and how much they spend. And the figures are there in terms of the value of tourism to the local economy at 658 million. The sort of direct and indirect jobs that it supports, 5,500, and also the amount of visitors that Swansea receives. So all the new attractions, all the new reasons to visit the city and county are sort of captured in that sort of summary, really, in terms of its economic value. And just below that, we've as part of that monitor, we capture sort of a half-year picture, and that just gives you an indication of where we are for January to June in 2025, which really does show that, and this one sometimes can be a little bit hit and miss because it's the first part of the year, and it's probably not ideal on a day like today, but if you recall, we had quite a good Easter weather-wise, and the tourism businesses that we support and engage with always tell us that if they have a good Easter, they generally have a good year, and that's kind of reflected in the 6th month report there. As part of the DMP, we originally flagged up a number of projects, obviously as a council that we're leading on, but we're supporting in some shape or form. And you can see there the amount of completed projects that have, helped start to transform the landscape of the city and county. Some, really significant capital projects there, but also then those in the pipeline as well, which means it sort of puts us in a good position to talk about new reasons to visit the city in the future. Things like Skyline, things like, the work that we're doing with the amphitheatre, the enhancements at Castle Square, all the key regeneration programs that are going on in the city centre, but also some of the other projects that we're supporting right across the county. A key part of the destination management plan since 2023 has been engaging with businesses. Without them, we haven't really got a product to talk about. And one of the key things, Councillor Robert Francis Davies, our cabinet member, was keen to encourage was engagement with the private sector. And as chair of the DMP steering group, we've produced and carried out a number of engagement events. And as you can see from the image there, they varied in terms of the subject matter. We've had specific ones on events, and in particular Ironman and its impact to the local economy, because we knew there was quite a bit of opposition to the fact that we close roads, but we've had to do that, and slowly but surely the sort of our reputation has enhanced as a destination for major events with things like Ironman, and that was important to relay that kind of impact to the businesses, so that one, that they could come back to us with some of their comments about how it was impacting their businesses, but also for us to show the impact it was having on the city. Last year, the Tourism Awards was a great celebration, albeit a little bit low key to the normal gala dinner that we normally do, but it was an opportunity to put the sort of spotlight on the sector, work with the private sector partners, and to showcase the industry and all that is good about it. The launch of the new website, which was a shared prosperity funded project, this has enabled us really to have a much more significant and stronger visibility online. The website now is very much a council driven but private sector supported website. And if I think back to a few years, just sort of around about the COVID times, where we only had 120 businesses on there, council decision to remove the charge for being involved in that sort of website. It resulted now that we've got nearly 280 businesses that we're engaging with. And what that enables us to do then is to tell some different stories about what is going on across the city and county of Swansea. And it's a key part of our marketing strategy, really, to drive all traffic, business and interest to that website. One of the other key pieces of consultation that we've done is around the development of the cultural strategy. A key theme within that cultural strategy is tourism and the visitor economy, along with things like arts, creative economy, sport, health, our library, archive services, and tourism now is an emerging thread there, and the sector have been engaged on the development of that strategy, and I've had the opportunity now to provide some input with regards to the types of projects that they would like to see emerging and coming through. A little bit of innovation as well throughout the year in terms of business events and site visits. Very much in the first part of Shared Prosperity Fund in 2024, we were fortunate to have some money to directly award to businesses that were invested in their property as part of addressing that strategic theme about raising the quality of the offer, and also a little bit of innovation around marketing, where we teamed up with the Ospreys with regards to some shirt sponsorship, which didn't cost us any money, and it gave us some significant profile on a number of games in return for some sort of publicity that we were able to provide them. In terms of the marketing update, we continue to sort of have a campaign which talks about Swansea being people's happy place. I think it's probably a phrase that we're all familiar with, and it's certainly one thing that resonates certainly with a lot of our visitors, because they do return year after year. Our research indicates that our customers are very happy with what they experience when they're here, and they do return year after year. And there are a number of headline stats there that I probably won't pull off individually, but it just goes to show that we the sort of introduction of digital and website and our ability now to monitor and track everything means that we're able to show a significant return on investment with regards to the marketing activity that we undertake. And we've got plans to understand that market a little bit more in the future. And I'll come on to that research a little bit further into the report. In terms of the web update, yeah, you can see, again, some fairly significant headline statistics. Some of them I'm sure we're all becoming a little bit more familiar with in terms of the terminology, things like total impressions and clicks and page views, etc. But it really is now a platform really where you can get a lot of information, both in terms of events and what's happening, places to stay, attractions and activities. And one of the probably significant growth areas really is the eating out offer that we have across the city and county. I think we're seeing a significant amount of good businesses, good restaurants opening and being able to provide sort of services and facilities not only to residents but also to visitors. And that isn't just in the city centre, that is right across the city and county. And we're engaging with a lot of those, and that's helped us to grow that area, because when people come down, a key part of their stay is, as we know, is where can they go for something to eat. In terms of the social media highlights, you can see there in terms of the platforms that were on Facebook and Instagram, we kind of exited X this year. It wasn't necessarily performing as well as we would have liked, and it wasn't becoming a very nice place to be perfectly honest, with some of the comments that were appearing on there. So our focus is very much on those visual social media sites where we can post a lot of the content that we create throughout the year. A key part of our strategy continues to be working with the private sector in hosting PR visits, and they could be major publications, but they could also be vloggers and bloggers, which are, as everyone knows now, everyone's a blogger or vlogger online these days, and everybody has something to say. But there are those that are quite influential, and we target those to come down to stay in accommodation. We suggest itineraries to them. We work with the private sector, and we continue to have that relationship with the private sector whereby we may pay and host a visit one weekend and they may pay the next. So it's a good arrangement that we've got with our partners that we work with. I'm sure you will have all noticed the amount of filming that's gone on over the last 24 months, in particular in and around the Guildhall. A significant amount of interest since COVID with regards to filming, and we've both facilitate and help organise filming when it's happening right across the city and county. Obviously, the more obvious one is here when it takes place, and there is a list there of some of the significant TV and film coverage that we've had over the last 24 months, and it's very much a part of the strategy moving forward. This building is so adaptable for TV and filming, and it really does help us sort of attract the likes of Netflix, BBC, all these sort of film production companies that we've now got a really good relationship with. And we have a member of staff who's part-time, a couple of days a week, that he works on film specifically, and he helps to ensure that that runs quite smoothly. And hopefully you would have seen some of the programs on TV yourself. I mentioned Ironman previously. Part of their sort of contract with us is to demonstrate what it means to the local economy, and in the report we work with them on the economic impact of that event. For those of you that weren't that familiar with this year's event, it was part of the Pro Series, which is a little bit of a coup for the council in the area, in that it's the best of the best in Ironman 70.3 race. So that's you've got the full Ironman event, which takes place down in Tenby, and we do the half Ironman, which is the 70.3 course, and we get the best of the best from across the world. So we had more people, more overseas visitors competing this year, and I'm pleased to say that for the first time ever we will be hosting the Pro Series again next year, because they are so impressed with the course, with the support that they get, and ultimately with the experience that they get on race day when, I don't know if you've seen the coverage, we were particularly blessed with some really good weather this year, and it helped with the media coverage of the Pro Series, which is broadcast on YouTube right across the world. So our sort of presence online was further enhanced by major events that we put on. The biggest event that we host ourselves as a council is the Wales Air Show. That weekend, again, not so blessed with great weather on both days. However, you know, some really strong numbers. We had the Red Arrows on both days. And, you know, we're working again with those assets to see when they can come in 2026. Getting my dates mixed up. Swansea Bay 10K was a great event this year. It sold out, which is the first time in a long time that it sold out. And we continue to put on events right across the destination. You see there outdoor cinema and outdoor theatre featured well. Great opportunity in the summer months for people to experience an outdoor event. Amplitude is our sort of mini music event at the amphitheatre at the side of the LC there. We were able to put on a couple of events there this year before we start the works on the canopy that will go over the sort of main stage area, but also give provide some cover to the people that are spectating at the event. Swansea International Jazz Festival, again, one of the strategic priorities is about trying to move events into the shoulder season, and that was one that we moved from June to September, and again, it worked really well, very, very popular. We moved it from a marquee on the Museum Park into the Swansea, to Wales National Waterfront Museum, and that proved really popular, both with the acoustics, but also providing a good environment in which to enjoy the jazz music. And most recently, the Swansea Arts Weekend, led by our team in the Arts, Culture and Creative Economy, my colleague Neris, put a weekend of art and culture right across the city and music. So some very key highlights there, and very, very positive media and social media coverage. On the development side, we continue to try and secure resources not only for ourselves but for our partners by supporting funding applications. You know, we've had a Shared Prosperity Fund and transition funding to enable us to market the area continually and do some things that perhaps previously we wouldn't be able to do. We've had some feasibility work done into Singleton Park, which has enabled us then to secure some money to improve the drainage there. And I know it's been a fallow year for events this year, but hopefully that will allow the drainage to settle and improve. We've also had some feasibility works looking at the wider Swansea Bay, and that's something that we're looking to adopt a little bit further with regards to some of the projects that have emerged in that. Caswell Bay as well, we've also looked at the potential for Caswell Bay. We've also supported the private sector, and there's some examples there of some of the projects that we've enabled the private sector to directly access some of the funding that we've had. And also then, you know, we've sort of continued to support some of our other services within the council to make improvements to things like toilets, changing places, but also one of the new projects for this round of Brilliant Basics with Visit Wales is the introduction of some motorhome airs. So these are some locations around Swansea where we can genuinely attract motorhomes to stay overnight without them necessarily being on generally just parking up on the highway and causing either a bit of a parking nuisance or a sort of a waste and refuse nuisance. So that's quite an exciting project that we're kind of pioneering really as a council, and colleagues in Place Directorate are leading on that with support from ourselves. One of the key things now for the next destination management plan is understanding a little bit more through the research that we're conducting, and we're trying to understand both the visitors that are currently coming, but also those that are sort of navigating their way through our website. So the first piece is the persona research, and that's very much understanding how people are using the website and then starting to profile what those people look like so that we can better target them in the future. A visitor survey has now been completed. That ran from the end of March to October, And that was, as you can see there, over 1,000 interviews conducted at a number of sampling points right across the city and county, 6 or 7 in total. So that will tell us what visitors to the area actually think, what they like, what they dislike, where they feel we need to improve, and that's a vital piece of how we will share that sort of feedback with our colleagues in other services. Currently underway is we're doing a survey of all businesses, tourism businesses. That will be complete in this week. Yeah, the survey is completed this week, and the results will be available in January. The hotel occupancy survey, again, that's an ongoing piece of research that we work with the private sector hotels on, and then ultimately that's all sort of mopped up in the STEAM report for 2025, which we usually get around April time in 2026. We're also doing some research around the Christmas parade, so starting to understand a little bit more about where people to the parade come from, because we all know that it's a sort of special major event that we put on. So it'd be nice that we could demonstrate that actually it's very much a core market of local people, residents, but also it does attract people into the city. An event strategy that we're currently working on, and I think you all had an opportunity to attend a workshop last week or the week before to provide some input to the consultants. A music audit, not quite a strategy, but just an understanding of all the grassroots music venues that we've got, that we're working with, to understand what the challenges are that they're facing as a sector, and what potentially we could look at and do to mitigate some of those challenges that they've got as a council, and continuing to analyze the website, really, because we would have had a full 12-18 months under our belt in terms of understanding how people are using the website, where we could improve it a little bit more. Coming to the end now, the importance of the DMP, as I mentioned, is very much a document that other plans and strategies reference. We continue to work with colleagues in planning around how the research that we gather can help influence the tourism needs development impact assessment, which is a key part of a planning application. We continue to work with Welsh Government to share our research, but also our sort of strategic projects and thinking around where we would like to see investment placed. Attracting brilliant basics, not only for ourselves as a service, but also for other parts of the council. And there's been, like I said, some good projects that are emerging and have been completed. Trying to get the private sector to benefit from, and it's quite apt on a day like today, the weatherproofing fund, which is a new scheme that's just been launched for the private sector to actually capitalize on. Some people do go for large canopies in some of our outdoor attractions, yeah, and that's quite an innovative scheme, really, that they've come up with. Continue to work with colleagues on from the research that we've got, understanding what the challenges are and the needs for other services, and trying to align some funding schemes with those. The development of the new event strategy, obviously, and the overarching cultural strategy that will be nearing completion towards the end of this year, with a rollout from the spring onwards, and also then to keep demonstrating the value of all this, because I think we all know generally that events are good for a city, but we continue to make sure that we try and put some kind of financial gain against that to demonstrate why we do these things, because of the value that it brings to the private sector. And in summary, really, we've just sort of teased out some high-level successes from the 2 years of the plan so far. I think the important thing is, we are reliant on the weather, and like this year, when we have good weather, it does result in increased numbers of visitors. We still face a challenge about making sure those visitors are spread out, but things like the website and engaging constantly with our visitors, both potential and established visitors, ensure that they get regular communication and understand the sort of changing offer that we've got throughout the year. We continue to produce engaging events that the private sector want to be part of, both in terms of the marketing, but also the events that we put on specifically for them. Like I say, we've got nearly 280 partners now that we're working with. That comes with its own set of challenges. We're a relatively small team, but it is vital that we have them on board, and they are key advocates of all the things that we do. And like I said, the successful delivery really of funding projects to demonstrate to funders that not only when we ask for funding, it's based on need, it's based on evidence, and then we continue to provide this track record in delivering major projects, both at capital level, but also where we tend to get involved with revenue funding. And that is the conclusion of the report.
Very comprehensive, and thank you very much for it. I think everybody realizes there's a lot going on. We have a couple of questions. Can I introduce Tony Fitzgerald? He's Councillor Tony Fitzgerald. He's not a member of the committee, but he did go to that meeting, the event strategy, and he was very interested. So I asked him if he wanted to come along. Right, the first question is from Councillor Mark Tribe. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good morning, all. Excellent report, really well illustrated and understandable. All the figures seem to be heading in the right direction, even though marginally in some cases. But if we return to the Iron Man section, one of the figures does concern me. Overall, how satisfied are you with the event? It was over 90%, which is excellent. And the following question: how likely are you to return to the event for next year? 50%, which seems to contradict the figures. Any idea why that figure is so low? Thank you very much.
No.
Anybody got any answer?
Well, the honest answer is no. I'm not quite sure why the difference. I think it's quite an investment for these athletes to take part in these events, and I can only imagine that for a large proportion of those that do attend the event, that they do look to compete in a number of different athletes in different events. So it's a bit like a tick box, really. But we can certainly dig into that and try and understand a little bit more from Ironman as to why that perhaps is not perhaps as high as it might reflect with regards to the overall satisfied figure. Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much.
My colleague will just add further to that.
For the Pro Series itself, the athletes gain points based on the number of different cities that they compete in. And then with the Pro Series, they compete for a share of a grand prize based on the number of different Ironmans across different locations that they participate in. So for the Pro Series events, those athletes will look to move on to different destinations in order to compete for the grand prize.
Okay, there is an
okay,
Mark. There is an application.
No, thank you.
Okay, there is an application fee as well, isn't there? It's quite expensive to compete in it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's over £300 to compete. So, but yeah, the Pro Series is as Salim mentioned, is something that is attractive to do once, and then they move around to sort of try and move up the league table of competitors.
Councillor Peter Black.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points. Looking at the bed figures, it's very difficult, I suppose, to incorporate how many people stay in Airbnbs. Do we have any handle at all on that? I know the Welsh Government is talking about a registration process, but that doesn't look like it's going to be in law until the new Senedd. And the second question is, I recently had the opportunity to travel on the £1 billion Heads to the Valleys Road, which is absolutely very impressive. So I'm just wondering, historically, we've got quite a lot of visitors from the East Midlands. Are we taking advantage of that new route, that new improved route into South Wales to try to encourage more of them to use it to come to Swansea? Are we marketing that opportunity? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the questions. With regards to the first one, the Airbnb, so it's something that we're acutely aware of, and you're quite right. It will all properties, as part of the new statutory registration scheme that Welsh Government are bringing in, will have to sign up to a register. So that's not only those ones that are clearly visible and we know about, the hotels and B&Bs, but also people that provide Airbnb as well. So it creates a level playing field really in terms of understanding who is out there and making sure really that when visitors have experienced properties like Airbnb, that by being registered, there's a mechanism for them to actually then, if there are any issues, a formal mechanism for them to actually, make their any concerns that they have known. So that is something that we're currently engaging with at the moment as authority, both with colleagues in licensing, but us as well in tourism in terms of taking the lead on that consultation. With regards to the A465, I actually took the route myself on Friday, and I also was very impressed with it. It clearly opens up the Swansea to the sort of Midlands. The Midlands has always been a strong market for the area, and our visitor survey will probably reinforce that in terms of understanding where people are coming from. In particular, we continue to do some marketing in that part of the world because we know that it's fairly strong for us in terms of attracting visitors. And yeah, like you say, I think that road now will make life a lot easier for people visiting Swansea and probably South West Wales generally. So we'll continue to wait for the outcome of the visitor survey. We are doing some research on personas and to understand not only the types of people that come, but where they come from digitally as well. And we'll be using all that research to inform marketing strategy moving forward. But yeah, I would concur with you that it is an opportunity, and we will be looking at making sure that we focus on how accessible we are now via the Heads of the Valleys Road.
Okay, Councillor Linda James. Linda.
Do you mean me, Chris, Sue Jones?
No, the one here.
All right, thank you.
That's it. Turn the mic towards you as well.
Creek. Right, sorry. I noticed you do quite a lot of consultations. Could you tell me what consulting you did with the Gower residents and the community councils of Gower, please? Generally about tourism and the events, yes.
So
Sorry, Chris, we can't hear at home.
yeah,
because
my apologies. I forgot to put the.
Sorry, you forgot to put it on, Mary. So.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So with regards to events and consulting with residents, obviously there's a key comm strategy that goes in place, particularly where there are parts of the event that is likely to affect their sort of day-to-day lives. I suppose if we're using Ironman as an example, where there is a road closure on Gower on the Sunday, a fairly significant one for certain parts of Gower, we make sure that we, in the build-up to the event, there is a lot of positive PR that goes out, and also as well the fact that the event organisers will do a letter drop to make sure that every household is fully aware of the impact that event will be taking place that weekend. Comms are a main part of our marketing, and we use a number of platforms in which to do that. And only yesterday we met with 4 representatives of 4 community councils on Gower who had raised their concerns about the impact some events were having, and they came away from it with a really positive understanding now about how there are certain things that, in terms of legislation, planning, licensing and law, that we can evoke, but there are certain things where events take place on private land, which is where their biggest concerns were, that we can do, very little about really, unless we get the cooperation of the landowners. And unfortunately, some of the events that they were talking about specifically, they're not known to us. They happen. They cause quite a bit of impact and then they disappear. But I think we gave them some sort of positive indications of where they could go next. And those were 4 community councils on Gower. So that was quite timely that they came in yesterday.
Yes.
Okay.
On that one, yes.
Colin.
Can I, the next one? You mentioned the Ironman. I was surprised at a report that came to council probably a couple of months ago now, just how much the Ironman event costs the city council, knowing that it's an international organisation and actually a profit making. I wondered why we're not actually charging them for the privilege of using Swansea for the event.
Well, initially it was a joint effort between Ironman, Welsh Government and the council to attract the event here in the first place. It was very much, an event that sort of fitted our sort of strategic aims with regards to when it was taking place and the profile. So the Ironman themselves had a lot of money from Welsh Government in which to have established the event for the first 3 years. We make a small contribution towards the event, and there's quite a bit of in-kind support as well. But there is also, on the basis that Ironman is very much providing a lot of economic benefit for businesses locally, and that 4 point whatever it was this year was a demonstration of what that impact is for the local economy. So I think in terms of the amount of investment that we make for the return that it provides and the profile that it gives the city at a time when we really want to showcase what is taking place across Swansea, then I think it's a good value for money.
If I recall, it was over £80,000 it cost the city. So
okay, that might be a direct contribution and with in kind, because obviously there's a lot of professional services that we can bring to the event in terms of our knowledge about road closures, about making sure that licenses are in place. There's a significant amount that we bring in kind really as a team as well, of course, during and across the weekend.
Thank you. Can I ask another one, please? I noted about the motorhome airs, which rather concerns me that we're encouraging even more motorhomes onto Gower. I mean, 2 of them, because they've got bigger and bigger over the years, 2 of them trying to pass in some of the narrow lanes, such as Park Mill, or on the way down to Port Eynon. It's gridlock, it can be chaos for well over half an hour or so trying to sort it out. Do we do anything to encourage them to use the North Gower roads, which are wider?
I think all the efforts we're trying to make, particularly with it is a commercial opportunity that we actually put people on certain sites, which actually having some control over that. At the moment, we've got no control. There's no offer other than the private sector. So about doing what we're doing is trying to get more people to come pay and have proper facilities, but that will be in a proper managed way. So it's not just ad hoc as it is at the moment, because what you will find, many people who use these things, they go on a website to find free sites. So what we're looking at is not taking away them free sites, but putting on an alternative. So we got better control and manage the sites better as well.
Councillor Chris Evans.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to know what work is done with other departments to ensure the assets that we already have don't degrade beyond being an attractive offer for tourists. So what I'm thinking of is places like Klein Gardens, where the Japanese bridge is starting to rot at the moment.
We will work with colleagues in countryside planning quite broadly, really. Generally, with Klein as an example, we would help them provide information in terms of the types of visitors that are using the facility, so they could better understand the impact those visitors are having. But I suppose it's from a tourism point of view, where there are pressure points, is trying to work with colleagues directly to secure funding to help them with some of the impacts that potentially the visitors are creating. like the councillor mentioned previously around the impact of motorhomes. You know, this is just trying to manage the destination in a way which enables us to make sure that, you know, for future users, that the investment that we're making is in the right places at the right times to ensure that you know, that it's fit for purpose moving forward. I'm not specifically aware of the challenges at Klein, but obviously as part of cultural services now we have but we, you know, we've got our parks and cleansing colleagues now, so we've got almost like a full 360 remit of a service. My head of service, Tracy McNulty, would just add further to that point.
Tracy.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to, because my remit obviously does cover a variety of attractions in terms of direct management, just to confirm, we work really closely with our building services, highways, regeneration colleagues. We also work with regional national bodies to secure grants to, as best we can within resources available to the authority and to those partners, to maintain what are, in many circumstances, you know, grade 1, grade 2 listed buildings, historic parks, but we, you know, we are investing in those parks through our improved tennis courts, skate facilities, changing room facilities, sporting facilities, all of which lend to a rounded destination in terms of attractions. Some of that funding, I mean, thank you for the comments about the report, which I would echo in terms of the work of the team. But there was a lot of stuff of the service to improve tourism that wasn't included. Long-term view, 5, 10, 15-year pipeline strategies, which we've been able to develop thanks to working very closely with other departments. So I just wanted to say that. In terms of the Klein Garden Bridge, I would just say that, you know, whilst it's acknowledged, it is also a graded structure, does need in significant amount of buy-in from wider partners. And the reason we weren't able to take advantage of an offer of funding was because we weren't able to fully understand that the individual who made that offer of funding was not perhaps as patient as we need those situations to be. We had a dead tree adjacent to the bridge, which suffered ash dieback and was at very real risk of collapsing onto the structure, posing risk to pedestrians and to a graded structure that would have had some significant investment. That tree is in the process of being removed, if it hasn't yet. It was a really long, drawn-out process of assessment, working out how best to remove it, given its location, and then the discovery of bats and nesting birds. So a year later, we're in the process of moving forward, and we very much hope to reignite the partnerships with the Friends and with, you know, a number of stakeholders for what is termed as one of our destination specimen parks. So I just wanted to explain some circumstances out of our control with that particular one. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. As you can see, Chris, nothing is that simple, boy. Right. Councillor Sue Jones. Okay. Councillor Sue Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Can I first of all say the report is really exciting, and I'm amazed at how much you've done. I just wondered, you know, the Ironman was a great success. Is there a similar event for cyclists? Because we've got such good paths around the city. Is there a possibility of maybe getting an event for them? And my second question is, high ropes coursing Portainen. What on earth is that?
Come on, Steve, you gotta come on, you gotta tell her.
So the High Ropes project in
Can you,
Portainen.
oh, it's on, okay.
Is it on? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the High Ropes project in Portainen is something which was secured a few months ago via Welsh Government funding, and the lead for that is Kerry Butcher in the Gower Activity Centres. which I think technically comes under social services, but it's something that we are fully supportive of in terms of a new attraction on Gower. And so we're working very closely with the team down there to make the project happen. It's at very early stages yet. The funding has been secured from Welsh Government and they're now at consultation stage. So yeah, very exciting project and attraction.
Maybe Sue, they'll let you have a go at it.
Sorry, a high ropes course. It's similar to, I don't know if you're aware of Go Ape in Margam Country Park. So it's it's an adventure course which is set in trees in Margam, but it wouldn't be the case in Portainant. It would be a specialist structure being brought in, and it's all about family adventure, activity, something for all ages, yeah, something different for Gower, certainly something which could be done all year round, which is the great thing about it. It's something that would attract, hopefully, a market at all times of year. And yeah, so very exciting. Hopefully, if it does happen. So
thank you.
But we've got a meeting coming up and we will have more details about what the project entails very soon that we can hopefully share with everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
What
Can I
about
just
the
pick up
site?
on?
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. So we. So there's a number of levels of events, I suppose, isn't there? There's the key ones where we've hosted things like the Tour of Britain in the past. So we constantly work with Welsh governments to make them aware that, you know, if there are major cycling events that are coming to Wales, we'd like them to feature Swansea as part of the tour. So we're constantly nagging them about that because we saw the benefits and the profile that they gave the city. Crikey, that must have been about over 10 years ago was the last time we had a major cycling event coming through. We know the major charity ones, you know, that take place that go from sort of, is it the Car 10, the one that goes from Cardiff to Tenby,
yes, yeah.
that goes right through the city. And there's a lot of charity cycling events. There's a lot of contentious sort of issues with cycling, major events. But I think generally I couldn't agree more with you now, particularly with the cycle network that we've got along the promenade up through Clyne, right through your ward as well, our ward, I suppose, through Gowerton there and onto Ponta de Lais now. We've got a wonderful network really of leisurely cycle routes, not only for those who are keen cyclists, but some safe routes really for residents to experience and enjoy, which I think is important as well, because who knows, they may become cyclists of the future in terms of competitive elite cyclists, and sport is a big part of the cultural strategy, sort of the priorities really with regards to giving opportunities to children of all ages to compete at local levels, but providing them with the facilities and opportunities to maybe go on further, not just cycling, but sport generally.
Thank you, Steve. All right, Sue?
Yeah, thank you.
So we're looking forward to going up this climbing frame now, and we're all looking forward to seeing you on the climbing frame. Councillor Paxton Hood-Williams.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just wondering whether, first of all, I ought to declare a couple of interests here. One, in terms of the fact that I am a member of the panel of the SPF, which allocates the funding, and I know the department, as it has been said, access funding from the SPF fund. So I better put that on the record. I'm also chairman of Swansea Local Access Forum. For the benefit of members, access land is basically defined as what was Forestry Commission, the Commons and the upper moorlands that you have up in Mynydd area. And the real concern there is maintaining for us is make sure that we maintain footpaths, etc., for people to use. Now, it's patently obvious that one of the main basic attraction of Swansea, one of the basic attractions anyway of Swansea for visitors is the Gower Peninsula and the recreational possibilities that affords. But what we are beginning to see more and more of are these major events like Ironman particularly, There's one that has become very popular now, which you can look on their website, Love Trails, and see exactly what goes on there. That's something that goes on for basically a week. They even have an event which is over 24 hours. So there were people running through the woods down in Bishopston in the dark with torch headlights on their head. The concern is not that the people are coming, but the concern is that we get some control over it. And as a result of that, we had a meeting on the Access Forum last week, and the events team will know full well that David Price-Deer attended that along with Rachel Loosemore to see where we could start a discussion on how we could bring some control in. I think everybody recognises the value of these major events, and certainly Ironman, as has been reported, 4.2 million this year. So it's been a big contributor to the Gower economy. But it does cause problems, as Councillor Linda James has already referred to, for residents in Gower, and it's something that we need to watch and look after very carefully. And I can tell her that Carrie Jones, who's on her community council, asked quite significant questions and got some quite significant answers as well from David as a result of that. But basically what we are looking and we are concerned about is ensuring that with these events we don't kill the goose that lays the golden egg, which effectively is Gower. We're looking to see, or we started or try to start a conversation to see how we can bring a bit more control into what is happening. And also where these major events are taking place across Gower, we're looking if we can see if we can persuade some of the organisers to do some funding in terms of Gower, increase the budget for the Countryside Access team in particular, and the AOMB teams, to enhance and make sure that we can maintain Gower so that people can continue to come and enjoy the area as we would want them to. Obviously, all sorts of problems associated, as Linda has said, but having said that, at the end of the day, we all recognise, I think, in Gower, what a draw it is for people, and we're obviously pleased to see them as well in that respect. I just wanted to say that, Chairman, so people are aware that there are other things going on behind the scenes or in other basic venues where we are looking at this to see what we can do to make sure that we can do the most we can to manage and control what's happening, to minimise the damage and make sure that we keep Gower in a state which people will want to continue to visit. I think that's probably what I need to say at this point, Chairman.
Thank you, Paxton. I don't know if there's any question I'd answer, to be honest with Steve, is it? Yeah. Any other members want to say anything? Oh, Tony.
We can't hear.
The bottom one. Right. My apologies for my late arrival. I was here at 10 to 10. I parked on the wreck. It's impossible to park around here, as you all know. I have to declare an interest because I've got a holiday home which I've been letting since 2011. And what I do, I always meet my visitors and I always ask them, what's your connection to Swansea? And amazingly, over the last 13, 14 years, about 80% have got a Swansea connection of some sort or other. We're not marketing to new people and getting new people in. It's people who came down as scouts and camped in Gower. It's people who got family down here, came down with when they were kids to stay with grandparents. A lot of that sort of thing. Swansea University, another connection. But we're not getting new people. That's what really annoys me. That's why I always ask, what's your connection to Swansea? And then they come out and say. Very few people say, oh, it's my first time. And when I say, why did you come? Oh, we haven't been to South Wales. We thought we'd try it. But those are very few and far between. And as Peter says, because I've discussed this with him, the Hedge of the Valley opens up the Midlands. I've been talking to bus drivers, and that is the talk of the coach operators now. The ease of getting up to the Midlands and the time saving is phenomenal. except when there's an accident on the Heads of the Valley Road, which caught me the other day, a van on its side across 2 lanes on the westbound, and I was an hour and a half static. But you can't cater for that. So marketing, I feel, is vitally important. And I want to see a lot more targeted at certain areas, like the Midlands. Now we've got the Midlands approachable, let's work on it hard. Newspapers, media, local television, promote Swansea.
With the sort of resources that we got, I think we punch above our weight with regards to marketing. And I think certainly with the research that we're doing, we'll understand a little bit more about where our current visitors are coming from. And it may very well, sort of represent your overview of your visitors, as well as, I suppose, the tourism business research as well, because that will give us an opportunity to understand about, where their market's coming from. So, we'll be able to confirm either way there. With regards to what we do in the future with regards to being a little bit perhaps more aggressive in those areas, certainly the persona research will enable us to, very much like you said, be far more targeted, whether that's by their interest, their lifestyle, or what part of the country that they're coming from. We'll be able to sort of link all of those together really to make sure that the messaging is very much on point, that we're sort of talking to an audience. There's nothing wrong in having repeat visitors. I think we've had a very when you've got 2 major universities, that if people find it very hard to leave this area, and people find it very hard to not come back. And I think that loyalty is always one of the sort of highlights really on previous research that we've done. So we'll use all that collectively to make sure that we're reaching the right people. And I suppose it's not only new people, but we also want those that spend a bit as well. What we find with some people that come in for certain types of visits, they're not really the high spenders. We want those that perhaps that come outside of the season and potentially will spend a lot more when they do come.
Anyone else? Oh, sorry, Tracy.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you for the passion that you're showing for the sector. I have a different experience. I camp in Gower twice a year, every year. I'm one of those people that likes to be a tourist in my own city. I've never been next to anybody who is from the area. I've always been next to Londoners or Midlanders. The furthest afield has been North Wales. So, in terms of the furthest of Welsh. I would also say as well, these are sort of really sort of common concerns, valid but common concerns with the cities that do retain marketing strategies and tourism strategies. So much of our campaign is out of city, out of county. It is in Birmingham New Street, it's in the Bullring, it's in Victoria Station. And if you're not frequently in and around those spaces, you may feel that we're not, really promoting the best of the city, other than, within our own local sort of, bus companies and so on. So I wanted to give some reassurance on that. I wanted to say something about coach operators. Having the experience of being Director of Tourism for Eastbourne, I'm very familiar with the coaching market, and it does rely on coaching hotels, because what you don't tend to find are the coach markets looking for self-catering or camping experiences. We do know that we need more hotels in the city. We've done our study that has revealed the capacity for more hotels. Whether those would be of a coaching scale capable of taking coaches is something else to consider in terms of location further down the line. But I just wanted to make the point that the coaching market is quite a niche. They're not big spenders. So I think it's a fair point that Steve is making as well about wanting to diversify that audience. And I would just say, I'm going to make a shout out for Snoop and the football, because we are seeing Morgan's Hotel and the Georgian Hotel completely booked out. If you heard through the grapevine, he's down for the Wrexham game, all the hotels are fully booked out. And those are people spending some money as well. So we've got to see that whole jigsaw and how that all comes together in terms of the offer that we have here for the different type of person as well. So just sharing some of my own thoughts there. Thank you.
Okay, Paxton, do you want to come back?
Thank you, Chairman. Just one quick question on this theme. What are we currently doing in terms of the cruising market and trying to attract more cruise ships into Swansea particularly? Because obviously we've got a lot to sell around here.
So we're part of a Cruise Wales partnership.
Yep.
We're very much relying on ABP, the port, being attractive enough for cruise calls. We know that the port is restricted in terms of the size of the vessels that it can get in, because it's got to come in via the lock, unless it's sort of
I give Steve a bit of a hand here. With cruise ships, there are two things that are very important. It's the size and the clientele. Because with those two things determines where they go. You have the Hoogervogen, whatever the name is, very, very high-end, expensive cruise ships, which are quite small, that go into lots of Norwegian, Icelandic, and smaller ports throughout the world. So they are incredibly expensive. And then you've got the very large, cruise ships, which have 2,000 to 3,000 passengers, which would not even, well, they'd have struggled to get in a bay, let alone in the dock. So it is difficult. You've got to fit the ship to the actual facilities that you've got where the dock is. And to be honest, there aren't that many that we could accommodate. Steve?
Yeah, thank you. Exactly that, and the phrase I was looking at was just drop anchor and tender in from out in the bay. We've seen examples of that over the years. But in terms of the work that we are doing to try and encourage cruise calls, only last night we worked with ABP and Cruise Wales to meet with a number of cruise tour excursion managers from the different cruise companies, and we very much pushing the potential itineraries that they've got here. We know they like the product of Gower in particular. We know they like things like Waterfront Museum, Swansea Museum. Dylan Thomas's continues to be a key draw. The fact now you've got tastings at Penderyn, that's very much something that the cruise market likes. So they like the idea, they like the potential of Swansea. The trouble is ABP unlocking that for us with regards to encourage the ships into Swansea.
Thank you.
Sue, Councillor Sue Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Just a comment. I caught the train on Friday and met two supporters of Manchester City who had come down on the train to the area, and they'd come out to Gowerton to have a meal. So we are attracting people from outside the normal small area of tourism. That's all I wanted to say.
Anyone else, though? Anyone? No, right. Couple of things just to finish off. And first of all, thank you all for coming. It has been. And I think what people need to understand is how the size of our tourist economy. And for a long time, it's been hidden about, it's just an add-on. It isn't an add-on anymore. This is a major economic benefit for the city, and we've got to do more to encourage it. One of the things I didn't see in the destination plan, I may have missed it, is any mention of the airport. I know in the past it's been a bit of a, white elephant is probably the wrong thing to say, but it has been a bit of a history of problems. But with the new consortium that's at the moment in charge there, it may well be worth us considering what that advantage that could be, because inevitably people that do this hobby flying have got a considerable amount of money to spend. So they may well be worthwhile looking at. I think that's first. I think the thing about the hotels, Trish, is I think everybody understands that. And coaching hotels are normally you know, in the 400 or 500 beds, you know, and they are very 4-star-ish type of hotels. And the problem is, other than Tenby, there's not a great sort of linkage into any of the current companies that do a lot of touring. I know they use the Cliff down in down in Cardigan, and there's a few other hotels, but they are quite small compared to what some of the hotels are, like the Torquays and that type. So I understand what you're saying, and I think there is an issue around that. Yes, it is now an all-year facility that we need to encourage, and the various items that you've talked about. And but there's one thing I would like to ask you, and it is quite a delicate issue, and there are people here who might be a little bit concerned about it. But I'm going to ask you about parking, and especially in Gower and the Mumbles and other areas. Obviously, one of the issues that we have, people come to visit. They don't all come on trains or buses. A lot of them bring their own cars. And we have issues with parking. It's okay when the university's away, they use the rec and we use other facilities. But one thing that I think we need to think about, and this is an issue that was brought up in other parts of the country, ideally in Cornwall, where a lot of parking is away from the bays, and that you have to catch a bus if you want to go to, say, some of the bays in Cornwall. Now the parking is well away from the bays to safeguard lots of issues. So I think there's an issue around that we need to think about. I think about, you know, we had the Gower Pony, which was one of the best things that ever happened, and that was the minibus that was travelling around Gower. You could park at other places, and I think that was a really, really good facility, and I think it's something like that we should think about bringing back. I think that's it, really. I think I have to say again, it's a very comprehensive report. It's a very important part of our economy now. And when we asked to have a scrutiny of it, people thought, well, why? But as I keep on saying, it is an important part of our economy. There's a lot of people employed in it, and it raises the profile. I'm just glad the days have gone that we couldn't advertise outside of Wales. When the Welsh Tourist Board would not allow Swansea to advertise outside of Wales, it had to be the Welsh Tourist Board. And I can remember the time when that happened. And the first time we advertised was in Paddington Station. And it was a great benefit to us all. So thank you very much for your report. And if there's no more questions, thank you once again. Thank you.
Just ask about the tourist tax. There's going to be no tourist tax operated in Swansea, is there?
I don't think that's appropriate at the moment, Tony. Not you, no. Sorry, the next item on the agenda is the work plan. And you can see that we've got the 9th of December midterm budget statement, and Councillor David Hopkins back here for the central placemaking plan. And then obviously then budget after that. Okay, sorry.
When the new development plan is out, or the update, whatever it's going to be called, can that also come back on a future agenda, please?
One of the things I've asked is that in future we have an annual report on tourism, and because it is such an important part of our economy now. Okay, then we go on to the letters that have been issued. Okay, are there any questions or comments? No? If not, thank you all very much for coming along. I do appreciate it.